I've been reading a series of short stories by Akatagawa Ryunosuke. I think I said that name right. It's a tricky one. So this edition, Penguin Classics edition, it's split into 4 sections. So it has short stories, so it splits the short stories into 4 sections. The first section is called A World in Decay, which is about the Heian period short stories. And the second story is about sort of the Tokugawa period, stories set in the Tokugawa period and set in the Heian period. And then the third one is set in the modern period. And the fourth section is short stories that are sort of autobiographical or that involve the author's life. So instead of going through the whole thing, I'm going to go through it, make little short videos piece by piece about all the different short stories because there's multiple ones. So the first section is what this video is about. It is short stories set in the Heian period, which is sort of this period from like the 8th century to the 16th century where the emperor actually had some power and ruled Japan. And this section's called A World in Decay because it's sort of set at near the end of the Heian period when that sort of that period was coming to an end. So there are 6 short stories in this section. First one is called Rashomon. This one's super short. It involves a person sitting under a gate, the Rashomon, waiting for the rain to let up. And well, I'll explain what happens first. But basically, he just goes upstairs in the gate because he's been recently let go by his employer. He doesn't really have a place to go. And so he goes upstairs where, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that's where corpses have been being stored, is in this upper layer of the gate. And he's like, well, I guess I'll just have to go sleep with the corpses. So he goes up and he notices a light and he gets really suspicious. And then he notices an old woman in there. Before he sees her, he's contemplating, like, he's either going to have to starve or turn to banditry and thievery to survive. And he's sort of contemplating what is he going to do. But he goes upstairs, he sees this old woman who is robbing these corpses upstairs. By robbing them, I mean they don't have anything. She's pulling the hair off the corpses to make wigs. But is still robbing the corpses. And he has such a visceral reaction to this that he immediately abandons all thought of becoming a thief, and he would rather starve than be like this woman robbing corpses. And so he attacks her and threatens her. And the woman says, I have to do it. I either do this or I starve. And he's like, you should rather starve. And the old woman motions to the corpse that she's plucking the hair from and says, this woman was the same. She did everything she can to survive and she still died or whatever. And so then something sort of switches back in this man's mind and he's like, oh, well, I guess I'll have to steal to survive. And he sort of robs the woman of her clothes, which are valuable. And then leaves her alone and naked. And that's it. Super short, but it's just a story depicting sort of like this guy either choosing between becoming a thief or starving to death, and how he doesn't know what to pick. And then on the one hand, he's like, I will never become a thief. I'd rather starve to death. And then he flips 180 the other way. But another main theme of this one is the sort of the world in decay, the Heian period, or this moment in the Heian period, the sort of the golden age is coming to an end. And that's my one problem with this, is it's very much, it doesn't follow the show don't tell cliche. Like, it shows a lot that this period, like, this is a world in decay. Like, it talks about the lacquer on the gate post is peeling, and this drizzly rain, and how there normally would be numerous people at the gate, but he's the only one there, and all these corpses up. Like, there's so many symbols of the world in decay. Like, the man lost his job, goes on, but it explicitly states multiple times in this short story, like, wow, the Heian period is coming to an end. Oh, the glory days are certainly behind us, because look at this. Like, so I didn't really think too highly of that. The second short story in this collection is In a Bamboo Grove. So this is the one that, if you've ever seen the Kurosawa film Rashomon, name from the first one, it's based on this story, In the Bamboo Grove. So I did watch that movie in my second degree. I took a course on Japanese film, and I loved it. I loved the movie. I thought it was so unique, and this story is basically the same thing, just in a literary form. So it is. Oh, it's really neat. It's the story that this man has been murdered, and the story is police reports or sort of interview records of all the different sort of suspects or witnesses to this murder, trying to figure out what happens to this person. And all the different snippets are, it's not interview like interviewee speaks, then interviewer speaks. It's just straight up the interviewer's words, and they're sort of it's just a really neat format. And so they interview the various people, and by the end of the short story, it's not revealed who the actual killer is. It's sort of the idea of truth. It's sort of up in the air, and the unreliability of witnesses. Like, for example, so the story goes that this man and his wife were traveling to this temple or somewhere, and they were set upon by a bandit. The bandit raped the woman, or at least had sexual relations with the woman. I mean, there's hints that it could have been voluntary. And then something happened, and the man died, and then the woman bandit fled. But according to the bandit, he did rape the woman, and then she begged him, "Kill my husband. I can't live while two men are alive that have both had me." And she was so vehement about this that he released the man, challenged him to a sword fight, and then killed the man. And the bandit's very much like, "Yeah, I did it, so what? Like, okay, kill me now, I don't even care." So that's his perspective. He admitting that he's the one who did it. They interview the woman, the wife, and she says that after she was raped, she went up to the man and said, "Let me kill you and then I'll take my own life. We can't live with this shame," or whatever. So she kills her husband and then goes to kill herself, but fails. So in that case, she's actually the murderer, although the bandit's still like. Anyways, and then finally they interview through a medium the spirit of the husband, and he reveals that he witnessed his wife being assaulted, and then she later ran off with the bandit, and in his shame he took his own life. And so who knows what really happened, but it's such a neat story, and I'm surprised. I probably just don't know about it, but there's got to be more adaptations of this story or this type of story, and I'd love to see them. I'll have to watch the movie again. It's been a few years. But that's In a Bamboo Grove. Third one is called The Nose. It's kind of a weird one. It's about this Buddhist priest who's got a super long nose, and he's like kind of obsessed with it because people don't really make fun of him for it, but it's like ginormous and it really stands out. So eventually someone comes to him and offers a way to shorten his nose, and at first he's like, no, it's okay, I'm okay with it, but he's really not. So he goes ahead with the treatment, and it actually shortens his nose, and he's super pleased with it. But then he starts realizing that all the people around him, all the other acolytes and apprentices and priests and whatnot, are kind of mocking him behind his back, saying that he's not like a great Buddhist priest, because rather than teaching them the ways of Buddha, he's more obsessed with vanity and whatnot. And so he's really upset. But then by the end of it, his nose grows back to its full ridiculous length, and then he's happy again because they're not going to mock him for being a horrible priest. So it's kind of mocking religious figures for not being true to their religion or whatever. The fourth one's pretty cool. Dragon, the Old Potter's Tale. So in Dragon, the Old Potter's Tale, another priest sets up a sign by this pond saying, on the third day of the third month, this dragon will rise from the pond and ascend to heaven, as sort of just a joke, just like a prank. But it really catches on. The idea spreads like wildfire. All kinds of people start arriving to the pond in the third month. People are sharing visions and experiencing having the dragon speak to them, and it's sort of getting out of hand. And he's like, "This is all just a big prank. What's going on?" And then at the very end, they actually sit and wait on the third day, and a big thunderstorm shows up, and he does see the dragon actually ascend to heaven. and it really shocks him. Yeah, so that one was pretty cool. The fifth one is called the Spider Thread. That involves a man, is it a Buddha? Anyways, in paradise, and he looks down into this pool. He's like in this in paradise. He looks down into this pool and sees a man in the deepest depths of hell, and he reflects on that man's life and realizes that at one point that man was about to step on a spider, but paused and decided, no, the spider's a living thing as well. I'm not just going to kill it outright. And so the guy thinks like, well, he's redeemable because of this one fact. And so he gets a spider thread and lets it down through the pool to the deepest depths of hell. And the man sees it, he grabs the thread and he starts climbing up, and he gets super, super high, and he's actually escaped to the deepest hell, and he's heading towards paradise, and he's super grateful. But then he looks down and he notices a whole string of people climbing up the spider thread as well from hell. And he sort of panics and he thinks, all these people, they're going to break the spider thread. Everyone get down, like, this is for me, this is not for you. And at that moment, the spider thread breaks and he falls back to hell. And then we go back to paradise, where the Buddha is looking down and said, oh, this man was so selfish that he only wanted to save himself. And at that moment, the thread broke. So again, all these stories are very much like, have like a very basic moral to them that is kind of obvious. The final one is called Hell Screen, which sounds like it could be a movie for like, or like a title of like an American thriller movie, Hell Screen. But it's about this painter who is commissioned by his lord to paint a screen with a depiction of hell on it. And this painter is not a great guy. He's obsessed with his painting, but he can only paint what he sees. So he sort of like almost tortures his subjects in a way, in order to get the scenes that he wants. Like he has an owl brought in and has an apprentice come in, and then the owl attacks the apprentice so he can like sketch a bird attacking someone. He has another one of his apprentices stripped naked, and he chains him up in a really uncomfortable position so that he can paint him. And his one weakness is that he loves his daughter. He's got this only daughter and he really loves her. And the lord of the house, not of the house, but the lord also quite likes the daughter, not like in a romantic way, just generally thinks she's a nice girl, and so has her as part of his household, which the painter really doesn't like, because he's sort of afraid that it's a romantic or a sexual relationship, which it is not. And then there's one scene where the daughter is caught having relations with someone, and it's sort of seen as the daughter's fault. Anyways, come to the end of the short story, the painter says, look, for the centerpiece of this work, I need to see a carriage being lit on fire with a burning noblewoman inside burning to death. He's like, if I can't see that, I can't paint it, and it's like necessary for my artistic genius. And so the lord, who is like kind of shocked and horrified that he wants him to kill someone for this painting, is like, okay, you know what, we'll do it. And so of course, the big reveal is that the lord has chosen the painter's daughter to be the woman. And so the painter has to witness his daughter being burned alive, the one thing he loves, in order to finish his painting. And at first he's like really shocked and horrified, but then the painter sort of, it's the term religious ecstasy is used when he's witnessing this scene, and he finishes the painting, and it's like the most glorious painting ever. And then he hangs himself. So that was a pretty dark one, Hell Screen. Anyway, so that's the first set of short stories by Akatagawa. These ones were all set in the Heian period. So next video will be about the ones set in the Tokugawa period.